All right, well, I guess we can go ahead and get started. I appreciate everyone joining this morning. I think maybe it worked out. I think most of us got some rain last night, or at least I know we did here in Suffolk. So kind of gave us a minute to get back on the computer. So I appreciate everyone's time, and I guess we'll go ahead and get started, and I'll try and keep an eye on the Zoom and admit anyone else that's trying to join. So we'll go ahead and kind of follow the same pattern as last month. So I'll get started, and Joseph Oakes, and do we have Olga with us? But we'll give a quick agronomy update and then kind of go through soil fertility, weed control, plant pathology, entomology, and then just a discussion. So really the big thing that I have to say about really soybean is we're in the thick of it for soybean planting. So I was finding some numbers, and it looks like as of right now, or I'm sorry, as of last Friday, we're estimated to be about 30% planted, but I think we've gotten a lot of progress this week. So I would say that's significantly higher where we are today versus last Friday. Um, so that's good. One of the biggest questions I've been getting lately is about how low we can go with our plant populations, and our seeding rates. So what I'll say on that is there's some data that really suggests that we can have as low as 75,000 plants per acre for soybeans and maximize yield. But the caveat to that is if we're going for those really low populations, we really have to make sure that we've got a good even stand, nice even emergence, and a really strong herbicide program. So, that's the absolute minimum. I would not be comfortable recommending that. So my recommendation is having the seeding rate at least 110,000. We are kind of in the optimum time right now, but you got to figure, there's not going to be 100% emergence and germination, and we're going to have some issues. And so that's pretty much what I'm saying is the lowest number, and then kind of going upwards to about 150,000, depending on the situation and the grower. So the big key there is trying to make sure that we're considering all those factors, and the lowest population that we're aiming for is 75,000 bare minimum. And then I'll share a link as well to a Science for Success replant fact sheet that I find to be very helpful about, if we do have to start making some replant decisions for soybeans, kind of step by step of how we need to walk through that. But again, it's really making sure we've got that 75,000 bare minimum, even emergence, even population, and then kind of going from there. So I'll share that in the chat here. But that's really my update. We're kind of in the thick of planting, so hopefully everything is going well for folks. I think overall I've heard some good things. I think some of the earlier planted soybeans are thin, is what I would say. So probably not 75,000 plants per acre from what I'm hearing. But we'll see. We've still got some time. So soybeans always kind of look a little bit thinner in the beginning, and then really do pull through. So that's what I've got, and I'll kind of pass it over to Joseph.
All right. Well, I don't have a whole lot, but I'll just add on to that, Carrie. We've been in the thick of planting here at East Virginia AREC. We pretty much finished, I'd say, 75% of our planting last week. And most stuff is up well now. We've had rains quite a bit. There's some rain last weekend, and then some last night, and it's been warm. So, most of the beans that were planted early last week are starting to come up well. Just on the wheat side, I'll just share. We're having our Virginia Small Grain Field Day here at the AREC on May 22nd. So in about 2 weeks, I'll drop that link into the chat here in a second. Overall, most of the wheat in the area is looking good. Heading is almost all completed. I know I've heard from a couple folks there was some concern of spring freeze. I haven't really seen a whole lot of that, like 3 to 4 heads total in like 60 acres. So I haven't really seen any concern with that. I did get a couple questions from folks a few weeks ago talking about wheat being shorter than normal. First, like the end of April, first part of May, but it seemed to come out of that. I think that's just because it was so cool early on. Didn't get a lot of vegetative growth, but I've talked to several folks and talked to some folks that are around the nation looking at wheat trials, and they say that's fairly common did this year. So, and then just due to the dry fall we had, a lot of the wheat was planted later, like after the 1st of November. So those we're seeing some thinner stands as most of the tillering it didn't occur until the spring. And there may be some slight yield loss off from that, but overall, I think we rebounded fairly well. And if wheat was planted on time, then we should be okay. So I'll go ahead and drop this link for our field day in the chat. And like I said, it's May 22nd, it's from 8 until 12, and we'll conclude uh at 12, and we'll have a lunch. So anyone out there, feel free to come and share with others. So thank you.
Thanks, Joseph. So we'll go ahead and move right along then, and unless there are any questions, we can, questions, please speak up at any point in time. But kind of next on the list would be Mark, if you have anything to share with soil fertility and what's happening out there on the shore.
Sure. Thank you,
Just
Gary.
one question.
Yep.
Sorry, this is Gonzalo from School of Animal Sciences. Is it common to plant after November 1st? Or that was something atypical?
Yeah, Joseph, feel free to hop in, or anybody else. I'll say, ideally, no. Ideally, we'd want to be planting in October. But because we had very little rain in October, it delayed some folks because of the dry soil conditions. So overall, I would say that's not ideal, and we try to avoid it. But given last year's conditions, it was more common than we would have liked.
And September would be too early?
Yes.
Thank
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had just about 4 seconds, so I didn't hear your whole question. But yes, most time November would be too late. Our goal is those last couple weeks of October. So
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the question.
Any more questions for Joseph before I start talking? Okay. So as far as soil fertility, I mean, this is kind of a weird time of year. We don't typically have a lot to really talk about regarding soil fertility for crops, except for two exceptions. One is every year we're always asked, and I was asked last week again about late applications of nutrients to wheat, even as they're hitting or have hit it. There's no data that I can ever find that says it's beneficial. So, basically, once you're at flag leaf, you're pretty much done with nutrients and fertilizer for small grains. Now, as far as if they want to have a shining light and a possibility to improve anything, is I have found some data saying that you can slightly, sometimes possibly increase your protein concentration in your grain with a late application. But I mean, unless you're being paid for that, then it's no use. It might impact test weight a little bit, but it's typically not a recommendation that we would say should be done. So that's pretty much as far as wheat. Now, the other big thing we need to start thinking about and talking about, which is one of my favorite things to talk about every time, is straw. So there's a lot of straw being baled in Virginia. As always, it's a historic practice we utilize, and it's been increasing here in Eastern Virginia. There's these custom straw balers coming down now, baling these, 1,000 pound, I think they're about 1,000 pounds, these big bales. They're storing them here in field, and then over the winter, they're exporting our straw to the north, to dairy farms and mushroom farms. I know this is happening across the bay too in Eastern Virginia. And so there's a publication, apparently I need to update, extensions whacked it off our website. But if you look at some of the typical nutrient concentrations just for nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and sulfur alone, that's in straw, wheat straw and barley straw, they're about the same. It's not a whole lot of difference. It's worth about $20 to $40 a ton for just the nutrients, just for nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and sulfur. So if farmers are going to bale their straw, they need to make sure they're at least getting, on average, $30 a ton for that material. And I know a lot of these custom balers are not paying that. They're paying significantly less. So effectively, the farmers are mining their ground, sending our nutrients to the north in the straw. So just keep that in mind if you're talking to growers. If they have questions about straw, and we probably should do some sort of extension outreach here in the near future as small grains start maturing, to just ensure that farmers are going to at least receive back the cost for those nutrients. Now, that's not taking into account anything else like easier to plant, better soybean stands for double crop, anything like that. But just for the nutrients alone, it's a pretty valuable commodity. So that's pretty much all I have for that, Carrie. If you want to have bale straw, let it get rained on is my best advice, even though I know that's a dumb advice for baling straw. But that will leach out the potassium at least, so you can save some nutrients that way. So, any questions? Okay.
Right. Thanks, Mark. Yeah, that's always an interesting topic. Do you want to speak at any on burning straw?
We don't do that here. That's an Arkansas thing, thankfully. In North Carolina, I think.
Okay, so I've been seeing it in North Carolina, I guess.
Yeah.
Line, but yeah.
Have you seen any? If you see anybody burning straw in Virginia, let me know, because I want to personally talk to them. Yeah. So.
All right. Well, good deal. Thanks. So I guess we'll move right along then, and I'll pass it over to Michael Flesner and VJ. Are y'all on here? I don't know if I have seen them. All right, so please speak up if you're on here. I don't think they are. They put some notes though, so I'll just go ahead and read through the notes, and then I'll share the notes at the end of the meeting too. So their notes are basically so for weed control, any questions on plant back intervals with various herbicides. So they want to kind of refer us to the pest management guide for that. Burn down and cover crop termination are hopefully complete, and if not, that needs to get done as soon as possible. So then kind of pre-emergence and residual herbicides is really the topic now. And so this is not going to be a place to cut costs. So looking for options like Bicep 2 Magnum or equivalents in corn, or Dual Magnum or Valor in soybean. And then post-emergent herbicides are going to be going out soon. And that's really, ideally the herbicide product and the application timing are going to be based on scouting. So difficult to beat Halex GT in Roundup Ready corn, and Roundup plus Enlist 1 and Enlist soybean, or Roundup plus Liberty in soybeans is the note here. So 12-inch corn height is the restriction for atrazine applications. And then don't forget to include a residual herbicide in the post application. Some good ones might be Dual Magnum, Zidua, or Warrant in soybean. And then I'll put the link to the pest management guide with this and all the other good information in the chat. And then of course I'll share these notes. So that's the weed control update. Sorry to fly through that. I'll try and I'll ask if there's any questions, but
Harry, I have a question.
Sure.
So I think I know this, but I want to make sure. So since we've been so dry, how much moisture do we need, and how soon after do we need for these pre-emergent herbicides?
That's a great question. I think it depends on the herbicide. So I know last year when I was talking to Dr. Flesner about some of the pre-emergents, he gave me some specific recommendations for low moisture that could be activated with like a heavy dew. And so I think it's going to be pesticide specific, but I can reach out to him and include you in an email to try and give you a better answer. I know a lot of them are going to need a good amount of moisture. Right now, I think we've got it, but that's a great question that I don't want to speak wrongly of. If anybody else has a better answer, please feel free to speak up.
Yeah, my concern was the timeline. So now we've got moisture, but a lot of this has been down. So I don't know what that window is.
I think that's also chemical specific as well, unfortunately, is going to be my answer.
Thanks.
Yeah, sorry to not have more information there. I'll try and get you in touch with Michael, because I'm sure that's something that we all could benefit from, and then I'll add that to the notes when I share them on Monday.
Okay.
Thanks for the question.
Gonzalo had a comment for straw too. Going back to the straw conversation.
Okay.
Sorry, I was not expecting that now. No, just a comment. Last year, I don't know if you know me, but my research is in dairy nutrition, and specifically with forages. Last year, I got intrigued about the variation of the digestibility of the fiber from straw. So what I did is I contacted Nick. He harvested all his grains, so we had all this variation of plots. So I went there and I collected the straw from the different plots, trying to see variation. And I don't know, the comment is that there is a lot of variation in the digestibility of the straw. So straw is not just straw. And this was a starting point to hopefully in the future we will work a little more on trying to understand that variation. I got intrigued by your comment, Mark, on the price of the straw, the $40 at least. I think typically the dairy farmers pay much more than that. From the nutrition side, I say that is not a lot of nutrient there, but it is something that I'm starting to work on a little more. So if you're interested, we can work on something there.
What's the main difference? Like, what makes the digestibility different? Is it?
I don't know. I tried to get a little more information. So this was, my understanding, this was the Virginia State variety plot, something like that. So apparently there is a genotype variation there. Everything was harvested on the same day, my understanding. So I don't know what that variation is related to. So I'm looking forward to know more. I would say likely, obviously, I would speculate, I don't know much about this, but the maturity of the different varieties would be a factor, how much lignin is in that straw. So just a comment there. Thanks.
All right, great. Thank you. So we'll move right along then. And I see a couple of plant pathologists on here, so I'll let them take it away with a quick update.
Yes, I can start from the wheat side. Fusarium, the scab forecasts have been relatively low risk to date. So the forecasting models are not indicating favorable scab or fusarium head blight risks. I know growers have still opted to put sprays out at that early flowering timing, the 10-5-1. And so we continue to monitor the weather as the crop progresses, and maybe some folks, Joseph or Robbie or Stephanie, can comment if there's still wheat flowering in their area. The recommendation is to move, have that spray on, starting at that early anthesis up to 7 days later. So you've got a little bit of a window there. But here at the station, our 7 days, in that 7-day period, we ran through our crop stages pretty quickly. So it's making me question our national recommendation of 7 days post, because I think we're set within 7 days, we're already out of our flowering piece. So Joseph, I saw you click off. Do you have any fields still flowering out by you? Yeah.
No, I don't believe so.
Okay. And I don't know up in the mountains. I don't know if we have anyone on the call to comment here if they have up there, but that would be probably our later piece of it. In terms of disease in wheat, I've kind of seen the regular players. We saw powdery mildew pop up. We've seen common rust pop up. I've seen stripe rust pop up in a small amount, in Shirley cultivar here on the station. I've seen Stagnospora and Septoria a little bit at low levels. We did have some barley yellow dwarf test positive here on the shore. I haven't been called out to see large patches of stunting like we were seeing last year, but we'll see how we move forward. I think that's about all from the wheat side.
David Langston here. My laptop is not functioning, so I'm on my phone. Can y'all hear me? Hello?
Yes. Yep, we can.
Yes.
Okay. There's not a lot to report as far as in-season diseases right now. Everything's just been planted or about to be planted or just coming up so far as corn. And I haven't, I imagine some soybeans. I know some soybeans have been planted, but it's really too soon to tell. I suspect that as dry as it has been, in my opinion, that we might have fewer problems with some damping off diseases. It has not been extra warm. Actually, in my opinion, I haven't looked at the data, but it seemed a little cool to me this spring. So we may see some issues with the SDS. Again, it's hard to guess what SDS is going to do. I didn't mean for that to rhyme. It just came out that way. But it was 1 year, I think it was 2023 when it was super cool. We had the, record breaking cool May. And yeah, we saw some SDS, but it wasn't like as bad as I had seen it in the past. And then, last year we had a good bit of SDS pop up, and it didn't, but it wasn't as, I don't remember having a really cool spring last year. So it's a little bit hard to predict. Regardless, it's difficult, once you see it, or, usually when you see SDS, it's too late. Actually, I'll back up. It is too late. There's nothing you can do once you see it. Everything has to be preventive with SDS. And I think right now, the trying to find varieties that list good SDS resistance, probably the best bet. But the later you plant, you should see less of it because the soils warm up. So we're kind of in that ballpark now where we've got less and less risk the further you get into the growing season. So far as planting, I don't have anything really to talk about in corn. I think Yuan is doing some work in corn she might want to update people on, but other than that, I'll save my comments for when I have more to talk about.
I echo what Dr. Langston said. Can everybody hear me? Because I'm driving on the way to Blacksburg. We have our corn trials planted in both Blacksburg and Newmarket. This is our third year trial to test fungicides and their efficacy against tar spot. Last year, it was not a big issue because it was very dry in Newmarket area, but in the irrigated field, we still see tar spot pop up in the late season, which does not cause much issue there. Good news is our spore trap system, it can detect pathogen much earlier than the symptom was shown in the field. And this result is much better than what Michigan State reported, that using a qPCR approach, they cannot detect tar spot pathogen until the symptom was same, like 100%. So I'm hoping for like the gap meeting or later season this year, we can show the comprehensive data to the extension agent and growers. My student is also trying to build up a machine learning model to predict tar spot by using all the factors we collected in the past 3 seasons. So that the preliminary algorithm can give us a pretty high accuracy, but there are some overfitting issue about that model, so we are trying to address that. So that's all from my side. And oh, one more thing. Dr. Linson and I have a SDS project. We are trying to coordinate with growers for the planting. Mike Parrish has been helping us to connect with the growers, and they are underway. That's all from me.
Right, sounds great. Do we have any questions before moving on to entomology updates? All right, well, thank you to all of you, Doug, David, and Yuan for those updates. That's helpful. And I'll pass it over to Kemper if you have any entomology updates. I know Tim also wrote some notes in here, so take it away.
Good morning, everybody. Yeah, Tim couldn't make it this morning, and so most of these notes are from him, but him and I are working on a lot of these projects together, so I'll just give some quick general updates. Starting with slugs, we talked about this a little bit at the last meeting. This is, typically an early season pest for us and really an emerging pest in our region. So some of Tim's notes here, he's seen minimal slug injury on his corn seed treatment trial despite his high shingle trap capture counts. He's planning on continuing to monitor that over the next couple of weeks. On my end, I just planted that trial yesterday, so hopefully I'll come up here with this rain we had this morning and can look at that more next week. I know Carrie and Tim and I are working on a slug bait application study. We have 2 locations on the shore, one here on station, one in Northampton. I'm hearing from Helen Dowdy, our Northampton agent. We've had pretty good slug counts the past 2 weeks in that trial, where previously we had almost 0. On the other end here on station, we basically have had almost 0 slugs at all in that whole entire trial, which is pretty ironic because I have another trial I'm working with Mark Ryder on right next to it, and we're catching like 300 or 400. So I'm not really sure why that's happening, but we are seeing variability in pressure within the same field. Just really kind of show how sporadic that pest can be. And to go back into that into the slug trial I'm doing with Mark and his postdoc Joey, we've seen high pressure all season long, starting with that big snow. Last snow we had, I think it was in January or maybe February. And as of last week, I think Joey just planted beans in that study. So we're going to start looking at the impacts on those slug numbers in that field on our bean plants. Again, I think we've had close to 300 between 63 traps for the past several weeks. Tim did want me to mention that him and I are working on a corn earworm monitoring network grant. This is basically a project where he is giving our agents, or really any of our faculty at these across the state who are interested in monitoring corn earworms, traps and lures, to really consolidate our monitoring efforts across the state. And so he has several links to participate in that. So if you're interested, please reach out to him. He has the traps available. This would be just simply I think a weekly trap count, and there's an Excel spreadsheet where you can upload that. And in case you didn't know, the corn earworms, they don't live here full time. They can't overwinter in our conditions, so they're a migratory pest. So oftentimes we have a lot of trouble really knowing when they're going to arrive. And so the efforts from this project will hopefully kind of consolidate that effort across the state. So again, if you're interested, reach out to Tim. He has the information and can provide you with traps and pheromones. On my end, I caught the first soybean podworm or corn earworm this past week here on station. I'm pretty sure it's the first one found in our state this year that I'm aware of. I did want to kind of give a forewarning for those of you who are planting soybeans early. Again, they're a migratory pests and they're pretty generalist, but they like to feed on fruiting structures. So if you planted early soybean trials and it's the first fruiting structure on the station, you could receive, atypical pressure. So just make sure you monitor for that. Or if you have late season soybeans as well, that's when you're going to kind of see them hop on there after we see our field corn and sweet corn things kind of disappear. So anyway, they're arriving. May 6th is actually very unusual to see them arrive this early. Typically June or July is when we see our mass come. Let's see. Tim wanted me to mention he's doing a multi-state soybean study with collaborators in 11 states from Mississippi to North Dakota, and they're comparing thresholds and IPM decisions to make automatic insecticide applications at R3. BT and non-BT corn hybrids have been planted at the Tidewater station to monitor for European corn borer and corn earworm injury, as well as resistance development to demonstrate the yield potential of some of the BT hybrids. Y'all are probably all familiar with the history of European corn borer, but it has not been a major pest in our area for quite some time. But we've recently heard from some of our collaborators up in the Northeast that they've actually documented some resistance to European corn borer to some of their BT traits, and that really hadn't been a pest in those areas for many decades. So we're concerned it's going to move southward over the next decade or so and could become a problem once again in our area. Me personally, the store, again, I planted that wireworm/slug trial yesterday, and so yeah, not a lot going on for me just yet. We're getting a lot in the ground this past week, and so I'll have more updates at the next meeting. Any insect questions? Sweet.
Thanks for the update, Kemper. So we've kind of gone through all the updates that we had planned on, but I guess I'd also like to really hear from y'all. What are y'all seeing out there in your different counties? What questions do you have? What questions are you getting from growers? And just kind of take the temperature across the state and see if we can kind of work together on anything that might be popping up.
From an entomology standpoint on the shore, things have been pretty clean for our row crop guys. I haven't, past couple of years we've heard about cutworm issues. I haven't heard anything so far this year in terms of cutworms. Some aphids in our cover crops, but they end up being a problem once things got planted. So it's pretty quiet on over here from an entomology standpoint.
Yeah, the biggest thing I'm hearing about is slugs, but you've talked about that, and unfortunately you've shared what we know. So they're an issue. But hopefully as things continue to warm up and as things are getting drier, they're going to become less aggressive. Well, I won't force it. So if there's nothing nothing to talk about, we can all take the next 20 minutes back to our day. But I really appreciate everyone joining, and I will touch base with the weed scientist to get a better answer to the question about moisture and residuals and timing and all that. And then what I'll do is I'll update that with the notes from today's meeting and share it with the recording probably Monday morning. So hope everyone got some rain last night, and I haven't checked the forecast again in the past 5 minutes, so it might have changed, but next week it looks pretty rainy as well. So hopefully things continue to go well. It looks like some parts of the state really need it. We're doing all right down here as far as moisture goes, but we could definitely use it. So I'm glad we got some more rain last night. And if there's anything that we can do for you, just don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good Friday, everybody.
Bye, y'all.